Hi guys, your new Tritech T5. So what we're going to do is put this bad boy together for you. When putting your machine together, what you want to be looking for is an 18mm and a 19mm spanner. So I've got two here because I'm going to have to do a bit of this. I also advise, through the years of spraying, to always have an adjustable spanner at hand and what I call an adjustable wrench, okay? Because you're going to need to be able to grab things like the manifold filter. So these are the two bits of kit you're going to need in your box all the time. An 18 and 19mm spanner is what you're going to need to put the majority of the machine together. Right, so first thing I want to do is start from the machine, working forward. Okay. The first thing I always do is insist that the prime valve is always down. Whilst ever the prime valve is down in the dump position, therefore the machine can't go under pressure. Therefore, technically you can never hurt yourself. It's just something we always do. Right, first thing I want to do is remove the cap. These little caps that we remove, I like to keep these. The reason being is when we put the machine together and the hose and the gun and everything's on, we always leave our machines in a wet state. We always try and leave water in them. But there are situations where obviously you're going to remove the hose for whatever reason. These are really good to just put back on, so therefore air doesn't get into your actual piston, dry out any parts and anything get a little bit, let's say, sticky. Okay, so what we're going to do is add the gauge. So this is the Tritech gauge. To be honest with you, I love this little thing. It's a dinky little thing. It's smaller than the originals. They work really well. This little cap here, okay, there's instructions about just snipping it with a pair of scissors. Don't bother, just leave it, there's no need. But what you don't do is remove this plug. The bubble is meant to be there, okay? It's a fluid gauge. The idea of the plug is if you ever have to top up the fluid. Over 20 odd years, we've never had to. Just ignore this. Secondly, don't remove the cap. And third, the bubble is meant to be there. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is obviously add the gauge. We don't need any kind of lube or PTF tape, as it is fine. We're going to do this finger tight to start with. Then what we're going to do is start to add the hose. So again, keep the red caps. We're going to do this just finger tight. What we need to do first is to tighten the gauge onto the machine using 18mm spanner. Okay, so what we're going to do is tighten. Don't over tighten. We've learned over the years to just tilt our gauge back a little bit. If you have the gauge set straight, you're going to have to keep coming down to see the pressure when it gets up to about 2000. Whereas from this angle, you can stand up high, look straight down and have a clear view. And again, 18mm spanner. This time we're going to hold the gauge, okay, just for the extra, and we just give that a little nip. That's the gauge, all nice and solid. Okay, first thing we want to do is we want to look at the manifold filter. The main reason, we want to know what's inside, okay? We don't want to assume it's the right filter. Over years and years of spraying, we've realized that filtration is a main part of spraying. If you don't get your filtration right, you're just going to have blockages, problems, and just frustrations and nightmares. So one of the things that we found over the years is a 50 mesh filter in the manifold is just really good. So what we're going to do is open it up, have a look what's in, and change it for a 50. This is quite stiff sometimes, so this is why we use the adjustable wrench, as I call it. All we're going to do is give it a little nip. There you go, that's all we needed to do. And now we're just going to spin it off. This is a 20 mesh filter, which in our experience won't do anything. There's no benefit. It's roughly the same size as the rock stopper, the one on your inlet hose. We take the spring and the 50 mesh, and then what we're going to do is just drop it in. Then we take the housing and we drop that in. As you can see, it's got a little spring, so it keeps it nice and taut. Just flip it over, drop all of it into the housing, and again, just tighten it up. Most of the time, you should be able to do that hand tight, but it's good to have the adjustable wrench just to give it a little tweak. Okay, so we need to add the whip hose. First thing you do is take the main hose, the male connector, put together. You take the whip hose, hold the male connector at the other end. Take the whip hose and just connect to the gun. So two spanners, one on the male connector, one on the hose, and just gently tighten. And now the other side, just turn in the opposite direction. So finally take the whip hose that's connected to the gun, and again, just tighten, all done. But what we want to do is, again, we want to check the filter. I know what's in here, it's a 50 mesh filter. years of experience of spraying, we find 100 mesh is pretty much our go-to. We still use 50s and maybe 150s now and then, but the yellow filter, the 100 mesh, we run it pretty much 90% of the time. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to put this in to start with. So what we do is we put 2 fingers behind the trigger, because this has got a little like hook section. And if you've got your fingers on the trigger, you will not be able to lift the safety catch, okay? The trigger lock. So push it forward with your fingers, lift it up. So we pull the trigger a little bit, and therefore the trigger guard just pops out the housing. So now what we can do is just hold the handle, and just here is where the handle and the head break apart. And this is finger tight. So all you're gonna do is take the head, and there you go, see? And then all we're gonna do is just spin it all the way around, just keep going until it pops off. As you can see, there's the filter. Okay, that's the 50 mesh. That spring, let's just keep hold of that. Let's discard this filter. What we wanna do is always, trust me, this is the one mistake you're gonna do. When you clean out your machine, you're gonna drop this in a bucket, you're gonna forget, and the filters don't work without a spring. So the first thing you want to buy as a spare is a spring, either for the T380 or the 360 gun. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is drop in the spring, take the filter. The filter, as you can see, has a long, thinner end and a shorter, fat, stubby end. This one has a hole in, this one does not. Okay, so what we're going to do is drop that in. And as you can see, we've dropped it in the fat end because the hole needs to go into the gun. You're going to find over the time that you're going to pull the trigger and nothing happens. You've got pressure, everything seems fine, but what you've done is, believe it or not, you've just dropped it in the wrong way. Therefore, as you can see, paint can't go into your gun. So if you pull in the trigger, nothing's happening, first thing you do, drop the pressure, pull out the filter, double check, turn it around. The other thing you always want to check is that bounce. Look, see the bounce? That means that the spring is inside. If it's not, you're going to have a problem. So that's all good. We've changed the 50 to 100. Now what we're going to do is refix the head. Just give it a little spin and finger tight. There you go. We're going to pull the trigger back a little bit, refit the trigger guard, push the trigger forward and refit the trigger lock. Okay, so now what we've got to do is obviously fit a tip and a tip guard. The thread is pretty much universal. So you can add obviously a clean shot, extension bar, and then obviously a tip and guard. There's many a time you're going to be working on a job on site and you're not necessarily using the trigger lock all the time. You should, okay? So I always enforce that, especially when we're teaching down at the academy. If you're ever messing around here with a tip, a guard, cleaning a blockage, anything, and the machine could possibly be under pressure, always have 2 fingers behind the trigger. It's just common practice. So in this scenario, I'm going to fit the trigger lock. We've got no pressure, we're not actually plugged in. What we've got is the tip and the guard. This is the standard tip that comes with it, which is a 517. Okay, so let's just remove that. The actual guard comes in 3 parts. You've got the tip guard, but then what you've got is in the back, you've got a little washer, okay, and the saddle. And the reason we call it a saddle is because the tip is round, so it's like a horse. You've got to actually put the saddle around it, so it's completely tight. So the paint can only go through the tip and it can't come out sideways. Every tip you purchase comes with a saddle and a washer. We found in our experience you don't have to change it all the time, okay? If you start having a few problems, maybe a little bit of leakage, that's the time that you want to be changing it. So when you buy a new tip, just keep the saddle and the washer in a box, i.e. your spray box, and you've always got them there for when you need them. So what we do is, firstly, take the guard. And what we do is we just attach it. The reason we've removed the tip is because at the moment I can just spin that quite easily. If the tip was in here, it would keep catching on the trigger guard. So we found it's just far better just to tighten it by hand. So what we do is we tighten it until it's stiff. Okay, that's not rocking at all. But then what we need to do is to get the tip in, because you won't get the tip in when it's actually tight. Is loosen it, and now you can see how it just wobbles. If we look at the tip just quickly, we can see this little ridge. That needs to go to the front. So when we put the tip in, it needs to be to the front. And you're gonna have to be a little bit forceful at the beginning. You know, these tips are engineered very, very tightly. they need a little bit of pressure. So as you can see, down you go, all the way until it won't go anymore. A tip is like an arrow. So obviously as an arrow, you need the head at the front and the flights at the back. And it doesn't matter if it's obviously on a vertical or a horizontal spray, it still has to be pointed to the front. What we're going to do is tighten up the guard, and this is just finger tight. And the reason being is you want to be able to turn, okay, from a vertical to a horizontal spray position. That is now good. It will move, but this is solid, and that's great. If you want to make sure the tip is obviously in the right position, look across the gun. Seriously guys, never put the gun facing your face. That's just crazy. I can see what I need to see here. I can see that obviously the tip is the right way, okay? Because if it's the wrong way, you'll see that the hole looks completely different. Let me just spin it around for you. To be honest with you guys, that's all good now, okay? So trigger lock is on, the tip guard is on, the tip is in, and it's all the way in. Everything's great. So now what we can do is think about flushing this machine through.